Hey family, how y'all doing? As usual, need you to go ahead, like, share, and subscribe. This is meant to be a short video to just answer, hopefully, this question about the earth before the Bible, Genesis. What is the timeline? So we're going to deal with that in a short type of way. And I'm hoping that this goes out to somebody that has perhaps had this question, and maybe we'll dive a little deeper at a later time. So the first thing I want to bring out is that there are those who believe that the Bible is saying a day could be 1,000 years and 1,000 years as a day. Just go ahead and know that that cancels out. A day is a day. According to some other sources and Jewish sources, and when you look up the words to save time, I'm just going to tell you, it seems that the day is a 24-hour day as we know it. Also, when the Bible speaks in Genesis about the years, because we're going to talk a little bit about the years that certain people would have been born and how old certain people were when they were born. I'm not going to go through the whole of it, but I want you to understand how we arrive when using the Bible at the conclusion that the earth is only about 6,000 years old. So if days mean days as 24-hour days, and the years, when it says years, means 365 days, let's check it out. So according to the Genesis narrative, man is made on the sixth day. God rests on the seventh. Why is that important? Because the first man, according to the Bible, is Adam. So however old Adam is, the earth should be about 5-6 days older than Adam. We are told in the Bible that at about 130, I think it was, him and Eve had Seth. So at that time, when Adam had that child, the earth would have been about 130 years old. Because remember, the earth is only about 5 days older than Adam, according to the Genesis story. And then when you move through that genealogy that is given in the book of Genesis and track it with all of the individuals and when they were born, you'll come up to what is pretty much considered the known time period of by the time you get to people like Abraham, and you get to Moses, and you get to those time periods, and then you bring it up to our current day. You're going to come out with roughly about 6,000 years. We don't have to be exact right now, because just the preponderance that it's only 6,000 years old, that humanization is only 6,000 years old, that would mean the earth is only 6,000 years old. When we have evidence that gives it to us and tells us a much, much different story. For instance, you could do the research on when the last ice age was. Already we have a huge difference in when these things have happened. So you have to decide, did the scientists, or do the scientists know what they're talking about when they're dating? Or does the Bible know what it's talking about, and is the Bible right? The other thing I would go into is looking at some of the things when we talk about skeletal finds, we talk about Homo erectus, and the difference between all those different hominids and Homo sapiens. Now, I'm not here to support the evolutionary theory or give any of that, but I am here to point out that there should have been nothing existing before the time that the Bible gives you. So if you find anything, any sort of animal existing prior to 6,000 years, let's just say 10,000, let's just say 20,000 years, let's just say conservatively 50,000 years ago, it shouldn't be there according to the Genesis story. It is really just that simple. Now, one of the things I find that this is a problem for a lot of believers, reason being is because they'll study the Bible and say that they believe it, and they believe that the earth can only be, they never put it in perspective that if they believe that Adam was the first human and that he had the sons and daughters and it went on down through the timeline that way, they never stop to think that that would mean the earth that you are on is only 6,000 years old. And then the same believers that go to school or either teach classes or whatever and get encountered with science and information and facts that demonstrate or show that the earth is a lot older than that. And yet they never bring the two together into the same cognitive space to consider, wait a minute, these two things cannot be together. They cannot be both true. Either the Bible is wrong or science is wrong. This is not going to be a long video, but this is a video to invite you to realize you have to start considering facts that are outside of what the Bible supposedly says. I'm going to probably do a separate video on that. Think about that. How many things would be different if we considered the facts that are also outside of the Bible and look back to see if whether or not the Bible was consistent with it? So let me bring this up. Okay, I'm trying to bring this up. The point that's going to come up, it should always come up when we start to deal with time. We also going to have to consider some things about Noah's flood. Now, the best Christian sources that I'm aware of right now, like Answering Genesis, tells us that the flood happened about 4,500 years ago. 4,500 years ago. 4,500 years ago. Remember that. That is important because there's a fact outside of the Bible of some of the oldest species of trees that live on the earth. They're called the Great Basin Bristol Cone Pine. Now, the reason that that's important is because the oldest living one, I mean still living, not just standing, but the oldest living one on record right now, they've given it the name Methuselah. Methuselah, this tree, is about 4,852 years old. 4,852 years old. So what that would mean is that if the Christians are right about their flood happening 4,500 years ago, that means Methuselah, this tree, had already been living for over 350 years before the flood starts. Now, how is it possible that the tree is still here? If the flood was worldwide and was covering the whole earth, this tree could not run. It couldn't run from the flood waters, and it would have basically been drowned. How is it that this tree is not only still in place, but it is still living to this day? A more interesting fact, one that actually same species of tree, I believe, and it died in the 1960s. They called it Prometheus. And Prometheus didn't die though until the 1960s, and it would have been, if it was still living, it would be older than Methuselah. The whole point is that these trees should have all been dead, and all trees and there should be nothing to predate 4,500 years ago, according to the Bible story, if the flood was worldwide. So I'm gonna have to do a video on the flood. I think that Christians and people should probably just at least consider that the flood was not a worldwide flood. It was interesting point about these Bristol cones, pine cone trees. These trees are found here in the U.S. of the A, out in places like Nevada and those type of areas, and they are still living. So y'all go ahead and think about these things. Go ahead and like, share, and subscribe. Just a real quick video to let y'all know we got to start considering the timeline, and hopefully this helps wake somebody up. This is the voice of Eli. I love y'all. I'll drop another one soon. Take care.